Welcome to another edition of the Voice of Palestine, Voice of the Palestinian People. It's August 31st, 2013, and I'm your co-host, Tanya Kassis. This week we'll be talking with Shamika Norman from Georgia and Sandra Turner from New York, two members of the most recent U.S. Interfaith Peace Builders delegation to Palestine, Israel. They will update us on their experiences and impressions during their visit, which they just returned from. Good afternoon to you, Shamika, and welcome to the Voice of Palestine.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yeah, could you tell us and share with our listeners about the motivation that really motivated you to go to Palestine, Israel, on this Peace Builders delegation?
What motivated me to go is that I was a political science major concentrating in the Middle Eastern part of the region, but particularly I was always interested in the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. From day one, I've always, anytime we had a choice to choose which topic we wanted to do for a research paper, I would always select that topic. And I went with interfaith peace builders because I like how they look at both sides of the conflict. It's not one-sided, and I think that that's important, that I get a different viewpoint from it and to see things for myself, because what I have learned from going on the trip is that what the media tells me is not always the full truth. Some of what they're saying is true, but it's misleading. So I think that it's important that I saw it for myself. So that's why I decided to go with IFPB.
Yeah, and usually they present the Israeli side of the story rather than the Palestinian side of the story, and that usually is in the interest of the empire, the U.S. empire, and the establishment in the U.S. Don't you think so?
Well, yes. Like now that I saw it for myself, it really was kind of misleading. And I can give you an example, if that's okay. The one with the settlements, when I would read it in the newspaper, it would go along and say, okay, Israelis are building new settlements on Palestinian land.
Yeah.
So reading that, I understand you're supposed to be a critical thinker and not believe everything that you read, but if it's misleading, some questions you will not know to think about or to bring up. So with the settlements, they would say, okay, they're building new land, they're building houses, settlements on Palestinian land. They just said land, so they had me thinking that, okay, it's just some uncultivated land or just some clear land that they're building settlements. Okay, what's the big deal? Yeah. But I did not know that the Palestinians were being evicted, and then the Israelis come in and move into their homes, or the Palestinians get evicted, and then the Israelis build like a new house where that one family once stayed. I had no idea that was what's happening until I went to Sheikh Jarrah.
Yes,
it's like that in Arabic.
Yeah.
Sheikh Jarrah.
Yeah, Sheikh Jarrah.
So I would have never known that. So yeah.
Yeah, actually, they don't tell you it is a stolen Palestinian land, because it's not in their interest to badmouth Israel. So, and it's occupied land, which is under international law, is illegal for any occupying power to move population into it under the 4 Geneva Convention. I'm sure you are aware of that.
Yes, I heard about the illegal land. But like I said, I did not know that there were people actually living in homes and that homes were being demolished. Yeah. I did not know all of this. It's embarrassing, but, I guess some people knew, but I did not know.
Yeah,
I did not know.
That's true. And actually, this is what happened to us since 48, because in the process of the establishment of the State of Israel, they demolished over 450 towns and villages that doesn't exist anymore in the map of the world, and really ethnically cleansed 3/4 of the Palestinian population. But that's another story. Could you tell us about the delegation a bit, because I don't think our listeners really heard much about it, who was on it and who initiated it, and when did you go?
Okay, actually I just came back last Friday, the 23rd of August. We went, it was like from August the 12th to the 23rd. They have like probably 3 delegations each year, and they have one coming up in November, I think October or November. But yes, it's a group out in D.C., and it's not just Christianity or Judaism. It's all religions, interfaith, and what they do is they go out and they observe the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. But since they have different delegations, it's different. It's kind of, the situation will be different because, of course, things are always changing, and certain delegations focus on different things. Like the one in October, I think, is focusing on the olive harvest, olive harvest delegation. So it really just depends.
Yeah.
So with this specific delegation, we kind of learned a lot about the demolitions, the home demolitions in the occupied territory, and then again about the peace process that Secretary of State Kerry did visit the region when we were there, or started the peace process.
Yeah.
So it was, something about the peace process, and we learned about, like I said, the home demolitions, and we just saw firsthand. We went to the refugee camps to see how the people had to live under the occupation, and we learned about how children as young as 12 years old are getting arrested and charged as adults because under military law they can't be, and for throwing stones at the soldiers.
Yeah, I understand that the Interfaith Peace Builders is in partnership with the American Friends Service Committee.
Yes.
Yeah, and this delegation was 26, I believe. The one that you went on was 26 people.
Yes.
Yeah, and I noticed from the names also and from the description that there were some people from Palestinian origin, Christian or Muslims, and some Jews too were on it, like Cindy Levy.
Yes, sir.
It was kind of truly interfaith delegation.
Yes, sir, and I learned a lot from those people, and I'm happy that I traveled.
Yeah, and you said you went to the camps. Could you tell us a bit about the situation in the refugee camps? Because the people are in the camps are refugees from 1948, basically, until now they are still sitting in refugee camps. Could you tell us about the situation there?
Yes, it's horrific, and the water that they have to use, they have like rationing of the water, so you will see huge black canisters on top of the roof in East Jerusalem and other parts where mainly Palestinians live. When we went to the refugee camp, it was in Nablus, like near Nablus, so that's not Jerusalem, but so they had the black things on top of the home. And so, it was a hot, sunny day, and I decided not to take a shower because I wanted to help conserve their water usage. And, it's the situation that they have to live in, the makeshift homes. It's just sad that humans have to live like that. I do not recall seeing any windows in the home. Yes, the family who I visited, yes, they did make do with what they had. So, yes, they had furniture. They painted the walls, lively, colorful colors. But for the most part, I did not like the way that they had to live.
Yeah.
So, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and also they can't expand really because it's limited area, and anyway Israel won't give them a permit to build outside of the camp. or on
Yeah.
even they don't allow people who have their own land to build on their own land. They haven't given many permits, building permits, which shows that Israel really interested in occupying the land and depopulating the Palestinian population from it and building settlement, like you said. They are, after you said, you mentioned the peace negotiation resumption by Kerry. Could you tell us a bit about the reaction of the people to this initiative and were they cynical?
The situation in the refugee camp, is that what you asked?
Yeah, and their reaction to the so-called peace resumption, peace negotiations again by Kerry. You said you were there when they announced it?
Yes. Well, some of the people who spoke to it, how they felt about the process is that it's really about land, and that's what they want. They really can't really have peace. What I've learned now is that the situation from the Palestinians' mainly point of view is about land. Mm-hmm. Some of the Jewish people would make it seem like, oh, it's religion, Muslim versus Jews. But the Palestinians did not see it like that. What they really want is the land. For the peace process, they don't really think it will work out unless land is really given to them, specifically pre-1967. So that's mainly what they are focusing on, just land.
Yeah,
because without the land.
Yeah, which is really just 20% of historic Palestine. That's the biggest compromise that the Palestinians did under the leadership of Arafat. Me personally, I won't agree to it because, it robs us all the other rights in Israel, whether land or the right to return to where we were born. Even the 20% of Palestine, they're trying to take over, and that's really clear because after Kerry announced the so-called peace mission, which is really a cover for many things, including internally and externally, but even after he announced it, Israel announced building more settlements.
Yes, and we saw on our tour bus, we saw many new settlements. The bus driver, our tour guide would tell us, this is settlement so-and-so, this is settlement blah, blah, blah. He would show us different settlements and say, okay, this is illegal under international law. So we would see some of the settlements. And, yes, new homes being built.
Yeah, on the account of the Palestinian people, for sure. But did you visit Bethlehem? I'm from there.
Oh, yes.
And I like usually to ask the people we interview about what did they see there, because recent reports indicate that it's surrounded by at least 20 settlements and the wall also. Did you see the wall and how people really are managing to survive there?
Yes, I saw the wall, and it's like the wall in Bethlehem will always stand out to me. Like my name is Shamika, but somehow someone on my bus said, "Come on, Shamika, your name is on the wall." I don't know who, but yes, I saw my name on the wall, and then I took a picture next to it. So yes, I don't know how. So someone else has also traveled to Bethlehem with my name, but yes, I would definitely remember Bethlehem and the people. Definitely.
Yeah.
And the wall in Bethlehem, we took a picture of all of the slogans saying, this is apartheid. We took a picture of that. So the wall in Bethlehem was very lively and political.
Yeah, and it's basically, if you want to go from Jerusalem to Bethlehem, you have to go through it or through gates through this wall, isn't it?
Yes, sir. We saw some of the checkpoints, but since we were on a tour bus, some of the checkpoints we didn't really have a problem with passing by since we were actually a tour group, Americans, foreigners. So we didn't really have that experience. But we did visit the Kalandia checkpoint.
Kalandia, yeah. yeah, yeah, yeah. And from your experience when you went in so-called Ben Gurion Airport, because actually it's the Lud Airport. There is the town, the Palestinian town that's called Lud, and they built on it the Ben Gurion Airport. But from your experience when you arrived at the Ben Gurion Airport, did you see any difference in treatment between, just Americans and people of Arabic descent, or people who have brown skin?
Oh, definitely I did. I mean, fortunately for me, I am African American. I'm dark, or some people say I'm dark skinned.
Yeah.
But actually, I didn't have any problems. But another African American guy came, and this is before we even made it to the passport check-in place. Some Israeli people who work at the airport pulled him to the side, asked to see his passport, and then they selected another man from our group, and he was a white male. And I think, and also the white male who was pulled aside also think that they only selected him just to show that they were not trying to be racist, because they singled a black guy from our group out, so they felt like, okay, in order to counter this and say, okay, we're not being racist, we're not singling people out because of their skin color, they did it to a white male as well, but just to save face. But yes, some of the people who had Arabic last names or Palestinian names, and who definitely look or Palestinian were actually called in for questioning. But it was very easy for me going in and getting out. But for the other people of Palestinian descent, they had a hard time questioning.
Yeah,
and they shared those experiences with me.
And this is also happens at checkpoints, isn't it? All through the occupied territories. If you are Palestinian, you'll face different treatment than Americans or any other citizenship, as long as you're not from Palestinian origin or an Israeli Jew or whatever. You can go through easier than Palestinians. As African American, do you think the term apartheid is justified, or we are paranoid as Palestinians?
Well, the apartheid. Well, like I said, I wanted to get like both sides and kind of. I do know that they do have blatant discrimination, and when we think of apartheid, we think of South Africa, and the South African conflict.
But apartheid means separation, really, and it could apply to separation of peoples anywhere in the world, not just in South Africa, too, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Yes, the UN. I can't remember the exact UN definition of it because everyone has like their own way of saying what's apartheid and what isn't. But I will say that yes, there is definitely segregation, and that you can easily tell that some people are not welcome in certain areas, because when we were leaving a Jewish area in Hebron, we were leaving speaking with David Wilder. We were leaving speaking with him, and one of the men on our group who were, whose parents were Palestinian, he was singled out by a soldier, and he was questioned about his passport. And our tour one of our tour leaders from, who's in charge of the trip, who's in charge of us, he intervened to step in, because he looked Palestinian, and the soldier did not say anything to anyone else, did not ask to see anyone else's passport. So definitely racism and segregation.
And there is lots of laws, that's different subject really inside Israel that discriminate against Palestinians, including Palestinians who are Israeli citizens, let alone Palestinians under occupation. But I just want to give you one final word. We're going to go to talk with Sandy after that. But could you, give our listeners a message, and how can they really further peace in between Israelis and Palestinians?
Well, I think that what listeners need to understand is that it is a very complicated situation, and it's really hard as Americans to interfere in other countries' affairs and tell them what's best for them. But I do know that what is going on in the refugee camps are not acceptable. The water disparities that are imposed on the Palestinians is very inhumane, and we do need to pressure our leaders to talk about the humanitarian crisis. I know when it comes to the land and who should have what, that is very political, and I don't see if there's an easy way out to solve that problem, but at least we can focus on the humanitarian issue and the ill treatment of the Palestinian children for throwing stones at soldiers, the type of years that they get. So I think we definitely need to focus on the humanitarian side.
Yeah, and really Israel is getting away with it because of the American veto. Since 1972, America vetoed 43 resolutions to bring Israel to task and to try to enforce these humanitarian issues. But with the American vetoes, as I said, 43, since 72, no other country vetoed that many in the Security Council. So it's the responsibility of Americans, really, like you said, to try to pressure their government. And we really thank you, Shamika, for being with us, and thank you for sharing your experience, and it was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, sir. It was a pleasure talking to you as well.
Thanks. And now we will talk with Sandra Turner from New York. Good afternoon, Sandy, and welcome to the Voice of Palestine.
Oh, thank you. Good afternoon.
Yeah. Could you tell us and share with our listeners about what motivated you to go on this delegation, this Faith Peace Builders delegation?
Well, for a while I had been doing Women in Black, a demonstration in New York City with other women who were protesting the occupation.
Yeah. And
I also joined Jewish Voices for Peace because I was always against the occupation of Palestine. And also I went to protest an IPEC meeting about 2 years ago. And so finally I decided that I really wanted to see for myself. I'm sorry, I have a dog that's barking.
Oh, that's fine, yeah.
But anyway, I decided that I wanted to see what was going on for myself in Israel.
Yeah.
I also I was born a Jew. I'm not a non-religious Jew, and my family never supported Zionism. They, frankly, weren't very interested, and nobody was ever interested in going to Israel.
Yeah.
But so I decided I really wanted to see what was going on there on the ground. And to see, since I was standing on the street and talking to people and telling them that I was against the occupation, I wanted to really know even more and be able to talk about it and saying, I was there and this is what I saw. So that's what motivated me to go.
Yeah, that's, I think it's great that more and more Jews really are speaking out against Israel and the Zionist ideology, because in a way, it is the same idea that says that Jews can't really live in their own respective nations. It's two faces for the same coin, as anti-Semites that say, you don't belong here. The Zionists are telling you don't belong in America, or you don't belong in Poland, or etc., which is really two faces for the same coin. You don't belong as to your own nationality, which is really important because the Zionists claim to speak in the name of all Jews, which is really misleading because I just give you an example. Here in Vancouver, we had an ad which showed, Palestinian maps from 46, and, the Zionists went up in, what do you call it? They were really upset about the ad, and they basically said that the ad attacks Jews and it promotes anti-Semitism, which is nonsense because they're claiming that they're doing all these atrocities in the name of Jews is what's promoting anti-Semitism. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I have that a postcard with that ad in my house. I've had it for a while, and that it's always infuriated me. Zionists do not speak for me as a Jew, and I get so angry when I find out that the money, my taxes are being sent to Israel to support the occupation. And in my name, But
in addition to the political and diplomatic support that Israel gets from the U.S., as I mentioned earlier with my guest Shamika, Israel vetoed 43 resolutions since 1972 at the Security Council just to protect Israel from abiding by international law. So, could you tell us a bit about the delegation and, what did you see and where did you go?
Well, the delegation was made up of 26 people who were between the ages of 20 and I would say 85. Some of them were students who were still in college, and they have been part of groups that are supporting boycott and divestment of sanctions against Israel. There were also people who were journalists. There were a few journalists. There was one journalist from the independent magazine or newspaper called FAIR. There were two other journalists on the trip. It was very diverse. It was, there were two African Americans. There was one Asian woman. As I said, there were different religions.
And some people from Palestinian origin, I guess?
Yes, there were two Palestinian Americans, I think 2 or 3. There was one Jordanian American. He was also, I think he was Palestinian. He was from a very important family in Palestine. That his family owns the key to the guardian of a key to one of the churches in Jerusalem. And yet and he had a hard time getting into Israel because they questioned him, even though he'd been there, his family'd been there for thousands of years. We could get in without even being questioned, and he was questioned, and had to go through customs, and spent I think an hour or 2 hours being questioned about why he was going to Israel and what purpose and what was he going to do. So it was quite. It was amazing and enlightening. I mean, the racism was so obvious from the first moment that we stepped on any part of Israeli soil. I mean, the people of color on our trip were taken out of the group and questioned as to why they were coming to Israel. I think some was just pure harassment. The first person who was pulled over, this is before we even got to customs in Israel, he was an African-American youth, and I just was walking behind him, and a policeman just came over to him, pulled him over, and asked to see his, to see his passport. And I felt like it was very upsetting because it was just like New York City.
Yeah,
where we have stop and frisk.
Or the South in the 50s.
Yes, definitely, definitely. And that's what I thought over and over and over again when I tell people about Israel. People say that's just the same way the South in the 60s, and there are some places in the United States that's still the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, I lived in Manhattan. And part of my community is, when you walk through the community, it's not completely integrated. Mm-hmm. And the schools certainly are not, they may be separate. They're separate and, they're just, the educational opportunities are not the same for people of color that they are for, Caucasians here in New York or in the United States. Mm-hmm. But I hate to say it, but I think that the United States is a little more subtle.
Yeah.
And I felt like there it was just like out and out.
In your face.
Racism. There wasn't any, it wasn't subtle at all, from the minute we walked in. And wherever we went, they would pull aside the people of color on the trip.
Yeah. We talked a bit about the term apartheid. How do you feel about labeling the discrimination in the occupied territories and even inside Israel as an apartheid? Because there is, as you well know, there is over 30 laws that discriminate against even Christian and Muslim Israelis.
Yeah.
Who carry the citizenship. How you feel about the term? Are you comfortable?
Oh, I think there's nothing else that describes it better. It's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, from the first time we got on the bus and driving from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, the bus driver was telling us, well, this is the wall, and this is West Jerusalem, and this is East Jerusalem. And I felt it was so confusing because the wall, you could see the attempt by the Israelis to push the Palestinians out of their land and away from their land. And the wall was just turning and swirling from one place to another. And then we could see the different roads, the roads for the Palestinians and the roads for the Israelis. It was just, it was shocking because I heard about it, but to see it was just shocking.
Yeah, the Jewish-only roads that no Palestinian can really use, while the other roads, Israelis can use if they wish.
But they also say when they have these signs that say, it's like you drive at your own risk.
Yeah, but I mean the military does go on it if they wish.
Oh yeah, no, I mean you can drive on it if you feel like it.
Yeah.
But who would want to drive? First of all, the roads are horrible. They don't get you to where you want to go.
Yeah, and I guess also these roads really when they tell you don't go on them, they're trying to discourage really more interaction between Palestinians and Israeli Jews, don't you think so?
Yeah.
And scare them, create a boogeyman, you to go there at your own risk, although it's proven that the West Bank is safer than even Tel Aviv, when it comes to crime or any other thing.
There's more crime in Tel Aviv than there is in other places.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. They're trying to scare people from really understanding each other and building peace. Because if you don't understand the other side, you will never really build peace if you consider the other side the enemy. And you don't have it. You don't know their humanity or how similar they are to you. That's right. So I think that's why they tell you not to go on the road. On the Palestinian roads, but doesn't deny the fact that these Israeli Jewish-only roads are really Jewish-only roads, worse than the apartheid system. Yeah. Okay. So, where could you tell us where did you go and did you visit refugee camps? And also, I heard you talk with some Israeli dissidents, from who refused.
Yes.
I think. Could you tell us a bit about those two, please?
Yeah, we spoke with some Israeli dissidents, and it was very impressive, and it was very emotionally, upsetting. But there were two women who were who resisted military service, And they talked a little bit about how they came to that decision. And they also said that they had been in prison. I think one of the women said that she was completely ostracized by her family. The other woman, I don't think ostracized quite as much. Mm-hmm. And they're very articulate, very committed, and continue, I think, to be involved in nonviolent protests. Mm-hmm. Then we spoke to one of the guys who was a conscientious objector, and he talked about his family, that his family had been in the military, both his mother and father, and his mother particularly did not want him to serve in the military. And he said he would always argue with his mother and say, I will go, I won't go. And just when he turned 18, he told his mother he was going to go into the military, really just to drive her crazy. Mm-hmm. And then he said to her, no, I'm not going to go into the military. Mm-hmm. And he got a CO status, which I imagine is pretty difficult to get. Mm-hmm. I don't know how many people get CO statuses in the Israeli in the Israeli Defense Force, but he told us they classified him as a CO. And then he said that he did get more involved with nonviolent protests, and he talked to us about, he went to some of the protests, and at some point I don't know whether he was a musician before, but he started playing the drums kind of to add to the demonstrations. And he said at one point his arm was broken, his hand was broken. Mm-hmm. And then he couldn't play the drums. And he said that, I guess it was broken so severely that he was hospitalized.
How did his arm get broken?
Well, somebody broke it. I don't know what they did. I don't think he was shot. I don't know how they broke his hand. Yeah,
while demonstrating.
Yeah, that he was demonstrating and they broke his hand. Yeah. And that reminded me of Victor Jara that happened in Chile, and I thought this is like horrendous. Yeah. Particularly, of course, when he was a drummer. Yeah. And that's the way to hurt him the most.
Yeah, actually, this is just to interrupt you a bit. This was the policy of Rabin during the first Intifada. He told the soldier to break the bones of the Palestinians so they can't throw stones anymore, and it became a policy of the Israeli army really then. So that's why I said it's not really unusual for the Israeli military to do such acts of barbarism, really.
It's totally like just saying, it's okay. You can do anything to people. They're inhuman. Yeah. You can do what you want.
Like and this is in his case, he's Jewish too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they don't care as long as you don't support Zionism. You are,
you're
not human being to them. Yeah.
You're not on our side. And also what it does to the soldiers themselves. Yeah. I guess I was reading, something about it. They become like, they don't have much feeling left in their life, because how can you do things like this and be able to express emotions and just, be a feeling, compassionate human being to anybody?
Yeah. If you demonize people, that's what's happened,
Yeah, their humanity.
Yeah, if you demonize people, that's what happened. It robs you of your humanity, that's right. Could you tell us also if you visited the Christian Peacemaker team in Hebron?
Yes, we went to the... We went to the settlement in Hebron and spoke to the representative from the settlement.
Kiryat Arba?
I don't remember his name. Benjamin?
The settlement name, Kiryat Arba, or the one inside Hebron, H2?
I think in Hebron.
H2,
yeah. And he spoke to us, and I felt like, he was giving all the reasons why the people are there, that they to protect Israel, to provide security for the nation, and talking again, invoking the Holocaust and saying that nobody was there for the Jews during the Holocaust. And look, I don't really believe that people are going to be there for us either. And then he started, something happens in Lebanon, something happens in, I don't know if he mentioned Syria at that time, but he said, I don't know if anybody's going to be there. We'll have to take care of ourselves. I mean, it's this whole idea that the whole world is against the Zionists.
Yeah.
And it's something that I had heard before. It wasn't the first time, this whole idea, how will the world affect us as Jews? Everybody has to be against us, and in just invoking the Holocaust. And people who have survived the Holocaust don't believe that. There are some people who are not, talking about that. This is something that nobody will ever be there to protect us.
Actually this is wrong, totally mistaken, because without the Western support, there is no Israel really, starting from the Balfour Declaration. So it's really self-pitying what he's doing, because, and also denying the humanity of others, that they don't have a feeling for the, Jews, which is quote-unquote their kind of Jews, which is nonsense, because, humanity is universal, and, people are compassionate from every nation, and you find the good and the bad and the ugly, according to Hollywood, at least.
Yes.
I mentioned today because they were observing at the Haram al-Ibrahimi Mosque in Hebron, and they were told to leave it, not to observe what's happening there. The Israeli military forced the CPT, the Christian Peacemaker team, to leave the place. I wasn't sure really what they were doing there. I didn't read the whole story, but they gave them warning not to be around the Haram al-Ibrahimi in Hebron, which is, the patriarch, what do you call it in Hebrew? I forget, but where Abraham was,
where he was buried, and this place where,
where they have, they forced the CPT delegation to leave. It just came today on the email. But
I didn't even see that.
It's from.
I did go there. I did go into the temple.
So, and there was the massacre that happened in '93 by Brooke Goldstein, the American doctor who killed 29 Palestinians in cold blood, really.
Oh, yes.
It's the same place. Did you visit this area in the middle of Hebron where the settlers, in the marketplace?
Oh, yes. We went there and we saw the place where they threw garbage down into the market. And, some people were killed. And then we also saw that we were supposed to go into the area where the place that's really like a ghost town, where they closed it down, so all of the markets were closed.
That's it. That's the place,
But one of the person the guide who was supposed to go there with us, and he has permission to take us there. There were two soldiers, and they wouldn't let him go in. And he said, why not? It was just like, I don't know whether it was arbitrary or, well, no, you can't go.
No, it's harassment.
And he tried. He tried to talk to them, and they wouldn't let him go in. And of course, they look like they're about 10 years old. They're probably either 18 or 19 years old, but they have their guns. And the guide who was going to show us the area, he was walking with a limp because he had already been beaten up and had been in jail. For his, I don't know what he did. Nothing, probably.
Political activism, basically, if anything, political activism. And did you go to Bethlehem?
Yes.
How is the situation there with the wall? Like, I hear it's been surrounded by 22 settlements and the wall in addition.
No, I think it is being surrounded. I don't know
Yeah.
I don't remember that much about the area.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
but wherever we went,
Did you visit people there in Bethlehem? Did you talk to people in Bethlehem?
Yes, I'm trying to remember who we talked to. Let me look.
Yeah. And how they're feeling with the occupation and the...
Well, I think wherever we went, we felt that they were building more and more settlements.
Yeah.
And an effort to take over more and more land.
Yeah.
And to prevent any kind of a two-state solution. I mean, to what it felt like to me, there was no possibility of a two-state solution because, as you said about those ads that you have on the trains, that it's so... There were so many little pieces left of Palestine. They're just little pieces. There's no way to... what kind of a land can you have? What kind of a state? And that they have no intention to stop. And every time there were peace negotiations, whoever is in charge said, well, we're going to build more settlements and more settlements and more settlements. Just as soon as they start the discussions, they talk about how many more houses and how many more places they're going to be building for the Israelis.
Yeah, and this on top of stolen Palestinian land, basically. You were there when Kerry announced the so-called peace initiative, and the Palestinian been in peace for 20 years. This September, 13th of September, will be the 20th anniversary of the Oslo Accord, really. And although the Oslo promised the Palestinian a state with final status negotiation to be finished by in 5 years in 1998 and to have their own state by then. So don't you think this recent initiative by Kerry and the American administration is really to have cover for building more settlements?
To have cover?
To use it as
every time there's negotiations, there's always more settlements.
Yeah, so they're using it really to cover building more settlements rather than really seriously talking about peace. Because if they wanted peace, they would have abided by the Oslo Accord, which was signed at the White House with the American president as witness to it. So they didn't respect their word. And why should the Palestinian, aside from the authority that's really sold out and getting their marching orders and their money from the U.S., but the general Palestinian public are clearly, against these talks. And did you see, I want to ask you this, did you see any authority for the Palestinian Authority over any piece of land or over even water? Do they have authority over water? And what kind of authority is that?
I don't think so. I mean, it didn't. What we saw was the Israelis have their, they have water whenever they want it, and whereas the Palestinians only have water for certain periods, certain days.
Yeah.
And is that what you meant, the water?
Yeah, the water, and in general, I mean, they don't control anything. The Israelis could come in Ramallah, the Israeli soldier could come in. So why they call themselves authority? I mean, authority on what,
Yeah, no, they don't have any authority.
So why are they calling themselves Palestinian Authority? I mean, it's basically like Israel Shahak. I'm not sure if you're aware of him, the human rights activist. He said, Rabin wanted the Oslo process to be to make the Palestinian like the Village League. The Village League, by the way, was during the occupation before the 80s and 90s. They were gun-carrying Mukhtars who used to enforce Israeli will. So that's what he said about the PLO. They want the PLO to become like that, and he was right. It's proven that they are really, enforcing the occupation, and they are trained by the CIA, and you know why the CIA trains people in South America and Central America, and these generals in the school of the Americas, I'm sure you're aware of it, where they train them to kill people and to...
That's true. I mean, I didn't even connect that much. I know about it in terms of Latin America.
No, but that's what they're doing in Palestine. They're training the Palestinian so-called authority, security forces to protect Israel, not the Palestinian. And this is according to General Dayton. I'm quoting him. He said, "We are here to train to protect Israel," basically. So that's the situation. Anyway, I think it's really important that you bear witness to what's happening, and it's important for people to go and see. Could you tell us just your final word and what do you expect from people? And really, we appreciate all the work Jewish Voice for Peace is doing, and I'm glad you're with them, because they're really doing clearly commendable work in the U.S. and educating the people in the U.S. about the situation in Palestine. And we interviewed someone when the AIPAC, you mentioned the AIPAC, we interviewed a woman, I believe, about what happened, and the occupation, she went in and, disrupted the AIPAC.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and we interviewed her. The interview is still on our website. We have 10 years of all shows on our website, so if you want
I will look.
just say AIPAC, it should be there. We interviewed her. So really we appreciate all the work we did, but I'm going to give you a final word to tell our listeners, and I believe, as Jewish Voices for Peace believe that the BDS movement is an important aspect of really bringing justice to the Palestinians. So could you tell us a bit about all these things?
Well, what I think, what I took away from the trip was that Palestinians were telling us that we depend upon you to put pressure on your government, to support the Palestinians and to change the occupation, to stop the occupation. And we feel that it has to, what we want from you is to put pressure on your government. That's the most important thing. We're glad that you came, but we want you to go back and talk to people and tell them what's going on here. And so that you can put pressure on your government to stop supporting Israel and to stop funding the occupation. And
do you encourage people to go and see for themselves and bear witness to what's happening in Palestine?
Oh, yes, I would. I mean, I feel that is very important. Because I don't think that you can go and not see what's going on and come back feeling like, you come back feeling like you have to support the Palestinians and do what you can. To change things.
We really thank you very much, Sandy, and again, it's a pleasure talking to you, and we hope to talk to you again, and keep up the good work.
I will.
Have a good
Thank
day.
you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
And that was Hannah Kassis talking with first Shamika Norman and then Sandra Turner, both members of a recent interfaith Peace Builders delegation to Palestine, Israel. And with that, we conclude another edition of the Voice of Palestine. I've been your co-host, Marian Kassis, and our final piece of music is by Palestinian singer Manal Abdo, entitled Moment of Truth from Kairos, Palestine. The song was originally written to deliver the voice of Palestinian Christians, but we would like to dedicate it to all people of faith who refuse to be silenced and continue to struggle with peace with justice for the Palestinian people.
Jesus.